years.
How beautiful is that?
That is stunning. You look young and sprightly and chirpy. Got to be doing something right.
Yeah. I think it's that she's worn my ears out and I can't hear anymore, so it's
Well, he says so, and she agrees 100%. The she is Val, who is the wife of, I guess, Croz Crossley. And you've just given us a book. I've read your intro. You dedicated it to your wife Val. Without his constant nagging, the book wouldn't have been possible.
That's it, yeah.
I mean, that's saying it like it is. You know, absolutely nothing wrong with that. All right, so who's Croz Crossley? Let's start there. You're in town, you're visiting. You clearly don't sound like us, so you're not from here. So who the hell are you?
No, I come from London. I was born in Hammersmith, in London. And
there's a
a
tube
lot of
station
people,
there.
Sorry?
There's a tube station in Hammersmith.
That's correct.
There's a
I
line,
think that's where I was
There's a
born.
line, yes. There's a pub just outside of that tube
Yes,
station.
and there's a prison down Scrubs.
I didn't get prison, but I went to the pub.
But I was born next door to the prison in Hammersmith Hospital.
Wow, okay. No, Hammersmith,
Many
very
years
well.
ago, yeah. So I went to Australia when I was 40 years old, and I went over there. I was going to show them all how to do business and what have you, and unfortunately there was some unscrupulous people, and through a lot of events I got what they call white-anted by some people, and I lost my business. And then I thought I was skint. This is the lessons that you learn. I thought I was skint, but when I got everything together, I had $250,000. I thought I was skint. Everyone else thought I was rich, but my mindset was totally wrong. The thing I should have done at that point was just relax, assimilate where I was, and then make the move. But I thought, no, I've got to get back in 5 minutes what I've lost, what I've earned over the previous 40 odd years. I want to get back in 5 minutes. So I rushed around, created a business that I didn't really have any passion for, and spent the next 2 years working 80 hours a week, me and my wife, to go absolutely skin. That was the lesson.
Okay.
Coming back from that, I was in such a state, because now, for the first time in my life, I was really, really broke. And I discovered a book called The Science of Getting Rich that was written in 1910 by a guy called Wallace Wattles. And one of the lines in that book said, if you do exactly what I tell you to do in this book, you cannot fail to get rich. So for the first time in my life, I decided to do what I was told. And I took on board the teachings in that book and got back in the game. And I thought, that's amazing. And it was quite simple. It was very hard to apply a lot of the stuff, but it was quite simple in its basic form.
All right, and just as an idea, I mean, obviously can't expect you to rehash that entire book, but just some of the key takeouts.
Well, basically, the thing is that, see, most people, I deal with a lot of companies and bits and pieces, and they say to me, I'm lost. And I say, well, where are you going? Well, I don't know. Well, if you don't know where you're going, you can't be lost, can you? You just are. Yeah. So the first thing that you've got to do is know where you're going, and I call it the clear mental image. So you've got to know where you're going, and you've actually got to see it, feel it, and live it now. Then you attract it to you, because opportunities in life are there for everybody. But if you don't know where you're going, they don't present as an opportunity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you know where you're going, that makes sense. Like, if there's an empty shop and I want an empty shop, that's an opportunity. If there's an empty shop and I don't need an empty shop, it's not an opportunity. So if I know where I'm going, I don't start collecting all the rubbish that we seem to accumulate in our life, saying, I'll use that later, that will come in handy. Does that make sense? So all of a sudden, once you know where you're going, everything becomes clear. Then you make where you are where you want to be. Because most people are going, when I get that money, I'll be happy. When I get here, when I get there, I'll be all right. And when they get there, they realise that their mood and their feelings are no different to what it was when they were chasing to get there. So the point is, you can't store your happiness or your future. You've got to live it now. You've got to enjoy now, know where you're going, and the big kicker, the biggest kicker of all, for me, was because I'd had my business stolen. Get rid of the past. Because we wear the past as a rucksack. We put it on our back, and the thing is, the lovely thing is, everything that goes wrong, how you going? All right, but if it wasn't for that divorce, I'd be all right. How you going? Okay, but if it wasn't for this, I'd be all right. There you go. So what we tend to do is all the things that went wrong in our life, we use as a reason for things, excuses now. Get rid of it. Get rid of all that rubbish. Visit the past for the lessons that you get. Okay? So the lessons that you get, the thing that went wrong isn't a lesson. That went wrong. The lesson is how did you cope with it? Right? So it's a mindset of saying, right, get rid of all the baggage from the past, make where you are where you want to be, and know where you're going. And that is after 25 years of studying, because when I set out, I wanted to prove everything wrong.
Yeah.
But the more that I've tried to prove everything wrong, the more it's become clear. And now I teach people all over the world how to use this information. And it's, as I say, in its basic form, it's very simplistic, but it's very, very difficult.
And that's the point, Croz. In its basic form, it's simple. It's easy to digest. We're all sitting here saying,
Yeah.
"Damn right, it makes all the sense in the world." You read a book. How easy was it to apply the theory? Because it's almost as if your mind opens up. Suddenly you look at something, and maybe it was the right set of circumstances for you
Precisely.
to have been reading this book and saying, "Okay, I've tried everything else.
Yeah.
Nothing has worked. Let me take this on board." It doesn't come instinctively, though.
No,
it
but you've
fights
hit
against
the nail on the
everything.
head there,
Yeah.
Aden. Exactly. You see, the thing is, most people leave it until they've got no choice before they start. So, if someone comes to me and they're doing quite well, I can make them do a lot better very quickly. If they come to me and they've got their back against the wall, they've got no money, they're desperate, they're chasing everything, it's very, very difficult to apply this information because you're chasing something. And the funny thing is, in life, whatever you chase, what does it do? Run away. That's whether a woman, money, an animal, anything. If you chase it, it will run away. So the main message, if you take nothing else out of this interview, I tell people 3 things. When you're in trouble, relax. The second thing is relax. And guess what the third thing is? Relax. That is the state that you've got to be in for things to sort themselves out. And if I'd had someone, when I lost my business, to tell me that, right? The silly thing is, I spent 2 years going absolutely skin. If I'd have just sat down by the pool, paid myself 25 grand a year, 2 years later I'd have still had 200 grand and known what to do with it. So the lessons that I teach are very, very powerful because they don't come from me reading the book. They come from my experiences, okay? So they're powerful. When someone comes into me and they say, "Oh, but it's all right for you," I said, "Well, tell me your problem." And they tell me, and I go through the Croz archives. How about this? How about this one? And losing a multi-million-dollar business overnight to someone you loved who stole it off you is quite a thing to come to terms with, right? So, and then all of a sudden to work for 2 years and go skint, it's quite hard to come to terms with. Which leads us on to the other thing, is forgiveness, right? All the time I was dragging around the rubbish for the past. How you going? All right, but if he hadn't nicked my business, it would have been better. All right, but this... The thing I had to learn was forgiveness. The minute that I let go of that, trying to beat him up every day and thinking, what can I do? How can I mutilate this guy? How can I... Well, every day I was thinking that. But the energy was going into revenge rather than to putting things right. And that's a very difficult thing to do. But you've got to really, really do that forgiveness bit. The guy I went to for help, he said, "Well, you've got to forgive him." I said, "You're joking, I ain't forgiving him, what he's done to me." And my wife said, "Listen, you tell everyone else what to bloody do. Why don't you, for the first time in your life, listen to someone else and do what they tell you to do?" So we did. And then we were told we had to write a letter to say we'd forgiven you. I said, I can do all the emotional bit and have my fingers crossed behind my back, but I ain't doing writing of a letter. And all of a sudden, she's nag again. She's done it, like the power behind it. So we've written the letter, and I went along and I posted it. And you know what? It's like I've been cured of cancer. I felt brilliant. I had forgiven him. And from that point, our journey back was amazing. Because we'd already covered the steps. You see, a lot of people, they want to jump the steps, don't they? They're down here and they want to get up here. without the steps. You cannot avoid the steps, right? So when things go wrong, we'd already done the steps. We'd built a multi-million-dollar business, right? So we'd done the steps. So when we got back, everything made sense, right? So we got back in the game a lot quicker. But what prevented us was dragging round the past.
Yeah.
So as soon as we let go of that, you'll go, Aden. I'm a bit of a bugger. When she wind me up, I never stop. So I'll let you ask me.
It's so nice to listen to somebody else. I'm the one beetling on incessantly. Croz Crossley is our guest this morning. He is a mindset technician. He speaks from experience and he teaches people, businesses around the world to think differently. He's popped into the studio with us this morning with his delightful wife Val, and without her constant nagging, he wouldn't be with us today. We wouldn't have this interview, and we wouldn't have the enlightenment that we clearly are getting. More with Croz in a bit.